this meeting to order. Welcome to the Coeur d'Alene School District 271 Board meeting of September 10th, 2018. Would the gentlemen please remove their hats, and everyone else please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to introduce our participants for this evening. Starting at my far right is Ms. Lynn Town, Clerk of the Board, Dr. Steve Cook, Superintendent, and to my immediate left is Lisa May, Board Member, Danver Bickford, Board Member, Ms. Jennifer Brumley, Incoming Board Member, and I am Tom Hearn, Vice Chair, filling in for Casey Morrisroe, who is out of town. Public comment on district-related items is scheduled near the start of this meeting. Please sign in on the sheet provided at the entrance door. Because of the diversity of issues, members of the board will not respond to public comment made during tonight's meeting. Instead, issues may be recorded and referred to the proper staff for follow-up. Comments may also be submitted to the board in writing through the clerk. Thank you. Before we get moving, we have some important tasks to complete. Ms. Town, would you please swear in our new board member?
Yeah, we need the mic.
Okay.
Will you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Idaho,
and the Constitution of the State of Idaho,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of school board trustee
of school board trustee
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Welcome. Next item is the approval of the agenda, and it's an addendum. There's an addendum in your packet there, which is the contract, I believe, for contract addendum. Okay. If you had a chance to take a look at that, is there a motion to approve the agenda and the addendum?
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Is there a motion to approve the minutes of August 6th, 2018, August 7th, 2018, August 14th, 2018, and August 31st, 2018? Second.
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposition? Okay. Dr. Cook, you have some things to take care of here.
Yeah, we're going to have some board recognitions for this summer's program. CDA reads this summer's program, so I'm going to move around front and have hopefully a whole bunch of people come up and join me. All right, this evening our Board of Trustees, administration team, and community would like to recognize the incredible efforts of Spencer Normington and our CDA Reads team of paraprofessionals, teachers, middle school students, and army of volunteers. On most Mondays and Wednesdays this summer, CDA Reads brought together young readers from our community to read books, play games, have lunch, and receive free CDA Reads t-shirts, as also books that they could take home. On average, about 150 children attended these events at their elementary schools, as well as other community gathering spots such as Riverstone Park, the Kroc Center, and our public libraries. As one parent reflected, I can honestly say for my children, CDA Reads was a reading lifeline. I cannot say enough about the wonderful things the teachers and staff did for my child. At this point, I'd like to invite Mr. Normington up to say a few words about the CDA Reads summer program. And don't think the rest of you are off the hook yet. Just a second.
CDA Reads, I was asked by Anna Wilson, our title director at the time, to take over and lead this. Somewhat like a concert. I'm a music teacher, so running it is like running a concert, which is pretty amazing, as from event to event to event, and different things that happen in each one. And because of the different sites we went to, each brought unique challenges, which was also fun for the staff to tackle. Over the course of the summer, we saw about 3,000 kids, give or take, with some repeat attendees and things like that, and we handed out about 10,000 books to kids, which was pretty darn amazing. And seeing the kids reading was a unique treasure. I think Dr. Cook saw some good reading, and he came and saw, and I had amazing people to work with as well, some really dedicated paraprofessionals and certified staff who really bought into the program, and that's where success happens, is when we have top-down buy-in.
So Spencer, before we get everybody up here, I'd like to know, tell us a little bit about my understanding, this is the first year of this program, and what can we expect in the future?
So this is an evolution from what used to be summer school. Summer school was assigned and students were bused onto site where they did math and reading and things, and this is the next evolution of that program. We're hoping, and we've already been planning for the coming school year in hopes that this program continues, to really focus getting the books into the hands of kids who really need them, and getting them transported on site, whatever the case may be. So we have a few ideas rolling around, and just pending approval of everything with the board and with administration. But I think we have a good plan for what's going to be happening come this summer.
I do have to say, Spencer, I did get a chance, when I finally got here, I got a chance to visit one of the sites, and that wasn't summer school. Kids were laughing and smiling. That was not summer school. So whatever you were doing, let's keep it in mind, because it was definitely working. All right, so let's get everybody up here. First of all, and if you're here, please come up. And if somebody is acting shy, don't let them. We need to recognize them. Let's get everybody up here. So, all right, I'm going to go through these as best I can. Spencer Normington's already up here. We'll give you that in a second. Sarah Thomas. Paula Zortman. Oh, come on, guys. Marianne Geringer. Lisa Sermino. Mino.
My library gals, they were amazing, by the way. They ran the library every single time. They ran the library, both of those last gals, at every single event. They knew what books kids wanted. They organized the whole thing. I kind of put it in their ballpark. It was amazing. And they went shopping for books, and they told me what they wanted, and I shopped for books, and I put it in their very capable hands. It was amazing.
You hold the mic. Kathleen Hicks. Yay!
We've got one.
We're going to take a picture in a second. Jody Johnson. Oh, we're 2 for 2.
And Jody is one of my right-hand ladies who helped me plan from the ground up from the very beginning, which was quite nice.
Janet Thompson.
As well as Janet. Both title staff at various schools, and so they know the ins and outs of what kids need to do to learn to read.
Janet Smith. Diane Kataska.
You can, yeah, look it up. Yeah, come on now.
She's got her shirt on.
Yeah.
She's repping.
CDA Reed's repping right there. Yep, I love that.
It didn't even occur to me.
Wendy George.
And a shout out for Wendy, just from my perspective. We had a lot of certified staff on board for all these events, and she was one that really stood out as that really bought onto the program and really caught the vision for what it was for.
Stacy McPhee. Kelly Bridges. Vicky Hill. Tammy Vandergrift. Ali Robitaille. Did I say it right?
You got it too. Yeah. And Allie was in charge of all of our middle school volunteers and getting them to on-site and off-site and organizing them. Kudos to you for dealing with middle schoolers.
And Stacy Croker. Nope. Okay. So let's first of all, you go stand over there, Spencer. Let's get a photograph. We got to put this on Facebook, guys. Yes. There you go. Let's get a board members in here. Come on in. Let's give a round of applause. This is a fantastic program, guys. Thank you for coming in. And that's it. Excellent. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Spencer. And that's it for board recognitions.
Okay, the next agenda item is high school student body reports. Do we have anybody here from Coeur d'Alene High School? All right. Yes.
Good afternoon, Coeur d'Alene School Board. Thank you for having me today. My name is JC Brockoff, and I am one of 4 ASB presidents. Unfortunately, Addie Smart and Geneva Bankston had a soccer game tonight, and Ryan Linehan takes night courses at NIC. So the first week of school was really successful. It was busy, and we have a lot of exciting events going on right now. Last Friday was our senior start, so we had all the seniors come out and play a lot of games. We had a slip and slide, jumpy castle. It was super fun. It really brought everyone together and got them kind of more excited and on board for all the future events that we have going on this year. Today, I joined with all the mentors, and we had Freshman Connection. So all of the freshmen got to play games, get to know each other. We answered their questions about school, and they asked a lot of questions like, what's our favorite type of bread? So other things freshmen like to know, and so that was really fun. This week is homecoming week, so every day we have a different theme to dress up for. Today was Mathletes and Athletes. And then Wednesday we have our Powder Puff Girls football game, which is really fun. If you want to come, it's Wednesday at 6 o'clock on Viking Stadium, and all the classes play against each other, and so it gets really competitive and fun. And then Thursday is our parade downtown Coeur d'Alene at 3:30. We'll have all different kinds of clubs. Hopefully they're all making different floats. We have all the sports teams there, and of course our homecoming royalty will be going down Sherman. Then Friday is our football game, our homecoming football game at 7 o'clock. The same thing, royalty goes around at halftime, and it's really exciting. We usually get the most turnout in our student section of any other game, and that gets us ready for our homecoming dance on Saturday night. We've worked really hard to reach out to all the different clubs and banded everyone to get involved and bring everyone together for this really fun week. We also have a wing of brand new classrooms in our school, and construction is in full swing right now, so we're really excited to get to see when the gym is finally done and our whole school is completed. Thank you.
Good evening, esteemed board chair, honorable trustees, superintendent Cook, and district administration. My name is Amani Pereira, and I am the ASB president at Lake City High School. Also with me tonight is ASB vice president Emma Bull. Our ASB secretary and treasurer Chloe and Claire are playing away games tonight and couldn't be here. We're off to a great start this year at Lake City with 1,720 students currently enrolled at our school. We're so appreciative of our 10 new classrooms and are really looking forward to seeing the rest of our renovations once they are completed. We had our orientation and open house on Wednesday, August 29th, which was very successful. Our freshman class is huge and we have some great programs in place to get them involved this year, so we're looking forward to implementing those throughout the year. Our student council also had our annual summer retreat 2 weeks before school started to come together as a team and start planning homecoming. In addition, Lake City is working hard to give our students a running start into their post-secondary education. Seniors enrolled in college prep classes will be going through the application process soon, as well as going on 2 campus visits this fall. We're also hosting All Things Senior on Wednesday, September 26th at 5:30 p.m. and would like to welcome everyone to join us as we give seniors tools and resources to navigate throughout their final year at high school. Homecoming is also right around the corner. Our Homecoming Spirit Week begins next Monday, September 17th. Our parade will be downtown on Sherman on Friday, September 21st, starting at 4 o'clock p.m. This year, our grand marshals for homecoming will be our secretaries. They're such an important part of our school climate, and we wanted to honor hard work that they do every day. The homecoming game and crowning of royalty will be on Friday, September 21st at 7 p.m., and we're very excited to have guest MC Mike Nelson announcing our halftime show. Our homecoming dance will be on Saturday, September 22nd at 7 p.m. We would like to invite the school board community to attend the parade and game. We're looking forward to showing our school pride and beating Lake East Valley. We have a lot of big things coming up this fall, including community service projects and more college preparation. In addition to school spirit events and supporting our fall sports teams, we'll keep you posted throughout the year. Thank you for the opportunity to come speak with you tonight, and we'll see you again next month.
Thank you. Do you have anybody from Venture High School here? Nobody? What about K-Tech? Okay, we'll move along here. Mr. Twitchell from the Coeur d'Alene Education Association.
All right. And as usual, I run people off. So. It's got to be the hair, I guess. All right. Board members, Superintendent Cook, and District Administration, thank you as always for letting me be here to do some ranting as I usually do. We're off to another start of another fun year. We're at only 175 school days to go, but who's counting? So far as CEA president, it's been pretty quiet, and I'm expecting it to stay that way for a long time. I know we got a lot of new faces in the district, new leadership. Welcome, Trustee Brumley. Great to have you here. But more importantly, I'm looking forward to the latest album release of MC Mike Nelson. So that's that is your stage name, right? Okay. Alrighty. I'd like to start off by just reading off some numbers here that I don't think are too much of a surprise, but it's getting to be quite an issue. In Spokane, the starting salary is $49,056, and they top off at $98,756. Central Valley, just a few minutes away, starts off at $43,018, top off at $95,032. Meade School District starts off at $48,263, and they top off at $97,823. In Little OMAC, because I know people like to talk about the cost of living, OMAC starts off at $43,998 for their certified staff, top off at $82,930. Coeur d'Alene, who is one of the better paying districts in the state of Idaho, starts off at $35,800, tops off at $62,719. Please know I know this is not the fault of the district, not one bit. I know the district would love to, if at all possible, pay us those wages, if at all possible. This is not the fault of the district. It is the legislatures and how they're choosing to spend money and get money to appropriate to education. I know quite a few teachers have been watching this very closely, and in a way there's been a slight shadow kind of amongst the staff of hearing all the news over in Washington. And big congratulations to them over in Washington. It's very well deserved. Some teachers I've talked to, one in particular today, was looking if moved over to Central Valley right now would be making $30,000 more a year for the same job. That teacher's at year 15 right now, and so if they work a total of 30 years, that would be an additional $450,000 over their career. Something that needs to be paid attention to. I have something here I'd like to read. It was written by one of my colleagues, Jeff Lake. He would have liked to have been here himself, but he's busy working a second job where he teaches English online. As a resident and educator in Idaho, I am concerned about the state of education in our public schools. The citizens of Idaho need to be aware that we are nearing a state of emergency. Education is a people business that requires the best and brightest professionals to educate our kids. Idaho, and in particular Coeur d'Alene, have a lot to offer to attract and retain the best and brightest to our state. But unfortunately, we are now light years behind our neighboring competitors. Yes, Idaho is a remarkable place to live. One can find amazing recreation, a quiet life, and awesome people that attract us to the communities we live in. Our students are amazing. Our parents support our schools, and we as educators feel that love. Our classrooms are well stocked with state-of-the-art supplies and resources, but there is one key resource that has been slowly leaving Idaho, and in particular Coeur d'Alene, over my 15-year career. Without this keystone of education, schools and students fall far behind. We must be able to retain and attract the very best educators, and Idaho and Coeur d'Alene simply cannot. Our state has been experiencing a mass exodus of the best and brightest education professionals across state lines, and those numbers will continue to grow exponentially in the coming years. North Idaho and the Coeur d'Alene School District are the most vulnerable of losing our very best to the neighbors due to the massive wage gap that currently exists. Professional educators teach and work here because they love living in our community and they love making a difference in our community, but many are questioning whether they can stay in our community any longer. There has always been a wage discrepancy between the two states, but now the difference is astronomical. A teacher working 25 miles away at the closest school district across the border, the Central Valley School District, who possess identical years of experience, degrees, and professional development credits as a teacher in Coeur d'Alene School District earns $30,000 more in wages. There is a $30,000 wage gap that exists. How can we compete with such a discrepancy? How can Coeur d'Alene attract and retain the very best educators? Quite frankly, we cannot. The numbers of unfulfilled education professional positions have been rising, and we have been losing the very best educators at a consistent rate. Those trends will continue and unfortunately grow if we keep the status quo. What will Idaho's schools look like in the coming years? That is up to the decision makers of this great state. Will the state legislature wake up and understand that we are at a critical moment in our state's educational history? Will they properly fund education in order to attract and keep the very best and brightest to teach our students? I certainly hope so. It saddens me to think what will become of education in our great state if we continue at our current course. Also like to add, I found it very disappointing that our state superintendent of education, Ybarra, who should be the biggest champion of education in all of Idaho, proposed a 6.8% increase. Of course, the dollar amount that she attached to that we found out was an error, so who knows what she really meant. But even at 6.8%, if all of us were to get that raise, still there would be a huge difference. The biggest thing we need to do is get out and vote this November. Find those people that are going to be sticking up for education. Find those people that are not going to be given a tax cut every time there's a little surplus that we have, and properly invest in the students and those that are willing to teach the students. It's the most important resource we have here in the state, and it can't be second to any other state. It shouldn't be, but unfortunately it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Time for public comment. I want to remind the public, while this is a meeting of the Board of Trustees that take place in public, it is not a meeting with the public. It is a meeting of the board to conduct district business. The board does allow some limited public comment on district-related items. Those wishing to address the board during this public comment period are limited to one comment not to exceed 3 minutes. If you have additional comments that you would like to be presented to the board, you may provide those comments in writing to the clerk of the board, Ms. Lynn Town. Ms. Town will ensure that the board members receive this additional commentary. Please keep in mind that the board members will not respond to public comment. If I determine that an individual statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, or repetitive, I may terminate the speaker's privilege to address the board. We only have one person tonight signed up for public comment, and that's Ms. Rebecca Schroeder.
Thank you, Board, for the opportunity to share. And I just felt compelled to share on the same issue that Mr. Twitchell just spoke on. I feel that I'm in a unique position right now as a candidate for the Idaho State Legislature. My husband and I have knocked on over 6,000 doors in Coeur d'Alene now. And since the well-deserved pay raise happened in Washington, and that was on the front page of our newspaper here, I have heard repeatedly every single day at the doors and within the community that this is an issue that people are deeply concerned about. Due to the feedback that I have received, I am hosting a panel discussion of administrators, educators, parents, and students themselves at the Human Rights Education Institute on Wednesday, September 26th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And I invite all of you to come because this is going to be a community discussion where you can hear some of the same things that I have been hearing from the people in our community. I agree that it is going to be I don't have to explain how hard it will be to recruit and retain the kind of educators that our children deserve here in Coeur d'Alene. So I want to look at the legislature's responsibility to uphold the Idaho State Constitution, which mandates that the legislature shall provide free, common, thorough schools throughout Idaho. It is the duty of the legislature to act when they are failing to fulfill those obligations, so please join me.
Okay, thank you. Next section item is consent agenda, and we are postponing action on tonight's consent agenda until we have four board members who can authorize entering into an executive session. The purpose is to hear some personnel information prior to approval of tonight's consent agenda. With that said, may I have a motion to table the consent agenda to the end of the regular meeting? That's correct, Ms. Down, I have that correct? So we basically need to put this off to the end of the meeting, the consent agenda. Is that
So moved.
okay?
Second.
Okay, so we move to second. Any discussion? All those in favors?
Aye.
Aye. No opposition? Okay, thank you. We will deal with these consent agenda items later. All right, next agenda item is the Long-Range Planning Committee report. I assume by Mr. Anderson you're going to speak, and then we also need to appoint a board liaison member to the Long-Range Planning Committee.
Thank you for having me here this evening. The Long-Range Planning Committee formed a subcommittee of 3 to review membership for the coming school year. Of the 28 members needed for long-range planning, we have 21 carryover members from last year. There were 16 applicants for the 7 available positions for this year. From those applications, the 7 new members that we're nominating include Heather Summers, Teresa Kaiser, Mike Beharry, Heather Riviera, Mary Wolfinger, Carrie Frank, and Stephen Romero. And of the 3 alternates that we submitted for your consideration, I would like to have only 2 of those included at this time. That would be Rhonda Nash and Laura Nelson. The 3rd position is still in limbo. The members that we have selected for your consideration are all passionate individuals with diverse thoughts that should make for a good complement to our returning members.
All right,
Any-
thank you. So we have a list, I think it was in your board packet, is that right? And I assume we're taking Luke Emerson off the list.
For
Is that what
now,
you're saying?
yes.
For now? For
yeah,
now,
I
okay.
can discuss that more if you'd like after the meeting.
All right. And let's see, we have Lisa May, you've been the board liaison in the past. You want to remain board liaison this year?
Yeah, if it's the pleasure of the board, I would like to do one more year. Dr. Cook and I have met prior to this to kind of discuss working on our procedures and policies regarding long-range planning, and I think we have some good ideas. We've met with Mr. Anderson, and I think we're looking forward to a strong year. We've got lots of work to do, and I think we'll hopefully be able to talk about direction from the board maybe at our next meeting, what we're looking from long-range planning.
Okay. If there's no objection, then I assume we don't need a motion, but Lisa May will remain the board liaison, right? And I haven't found, where is that on my, on pages? Page 67, sorry. It's been 5 years since I've been chair, so I'm a little rusty on this. 67, okay. Well, maybe whoever can find that, you can make the motion.
Do we have to name all of the people on the list?
I
Just
don't need every. Oh, there it
Just
is, I
the
see
new
it.
ones?
Okay.
there's like as presented. Okay. I would make a motion to approve the list of long-range planning committee members as presented, with the exception of Luke Emerson.
Okay. Your second to that?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Appreciate it.
Mr. Anderson, I had one quick question. I know last year when we talked about growing membership and trying to get representation from both city and municipalities, I saw that we had somebody from Coeur d'Alene listed. Are we still looking or hoping to have maybe someone stop in from Hayden?
I believe that that third alternate position will be filled by someone from Hayden, yes.
Okay.
That's where I'm headed at this time anyway.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson, you're going to talk to us about elementary art course pacing guides.
Yeah, absolutely. Vice Chair Hearn, Superintendent Cook, and members of the board. We have posted our elementary art course pacing guides that were presented to you for first read this last month. For the last 30 days, we've received no public comment.
Does anybody have any questions of Dr. Nelson? So it's page 68. There's a motion there. If somebody wants to make that motion, if there's no questions.
I'll make the motion to approve the elementary art course pacing guide as presented.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson, appreciate it. All right, now this sources of strength
This is the wrong.
contract and discussion. I think this is important to note that this is some of the efforts of this district toward our suicide prevention agenda. And I think that's important for the public to understand. We are working hard in this area. It's been a big concern in this community, in this district. So take it away, Dr. Cotto.
Thank you.
Well,
Good
maybe Dr.
evening.
Cook's gonna say
Trina,
Go ahead.
before you start, I just want to take just a second to talk a little bit about what we're going to propose here for a recommendation. We're going to formally recommend that the district go under contract for 5 of our schools, 5 of our secondary schools, both high schools and 3 middle schools. Ventures actually already got an agreement with Sources of Strength, and we can talk about that later if you'd like, to enter in a 3-year contract, a renewable 3-year contract with Sources of Strength. It's a very when implemented correctly, it's a very powerful culture builder in a school that provides guidance and leadership to students, but more importantly, it provides students with the opportunity to help define the culture of their schools. And this is something that I feel very passionately about. I think our staff feels very passionately about. And we've been talking with our secondary teachers and administrators about how this would best supplement some of the programs that are currently going on. This is it's a program that you'll see what Dr. Cottle is going to present with you, that it takes an investment of adults into students, but I think you'll hear from us a very strong recommendation for why this could be a large impacting investment of our time and money for our students.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Vice Chair Hearn, Superintendent Cook, and board members. Again, Dr. Cook explained a little bit what our why was, but basically we're looking at implementing sources of strength because we want to continue our efforts to better support student social emotional needs and to really increase our suicide prevention efforts. Earlier this summer, we had met at Panhandle Health with other community partners, and we talked about how we can work better together and make sure that there's not any gaps out there, and we can be more comprehensive in our approach to prevention. We're very good at reacting to issues of crisis, but we want to prevent those issues. So the first question really is, what is sources of strength? And so we're going to show a little video from their webpage that kind of encapsulates sources of strength, and then I will kind of go through and highlight some pieces of it, and then we'll talk a little bit about the contract and implementation.
Source of Strength is a program that uses peer leaders to go out and try to change social norms and climates across whole populations and spread messages of hope, spread messages of strength and help.
As Sources of Strength, we don't view our peer leaders as junior psychologists or counselors and send them out to fix all of their friends. We really ultimately view them as these agents of social change, and we take what we call a social network approach, that we all exist within these social networks, and we know that things can spread through a network. There's a lot of emerging science on this. What we've learned is that positive things can spread through a network. Things like hope and resiliency and strength and connection and trust towards adults can spread through a network. And so we really view our peer leaders as these agents of social change, as the patient zero of an epidemic of health, of a contagion of strength within their school and community.
I think Sources of Strength is unique in the fact that it's a positive program. It's uplifting. It deals with the strengths that you have around you instead of the negatives.
Sources of Strength is, in the model, aimed not only at addressing the needs of students who may be in crisis to help connect them to natural as well as formal helping resources, but it's also to increase the number of students that have adults that they're in connection with, because we know that's an important protective factor.
What are things that kind of give you strength? Who are people? What are your favorite activities? Source of Strength has peer leader teams going in middle school, high school, college, universities, community, cultural groups, as well as faith-based groups. And these peer teams can go out and spread hope, help, strength messages, and they adapt those messages to kind of fit their culture.
Research has shown that we've been able to break down codes of silence, increase perceptions of adult support, increase help-seeking behaviors, and enhance protective factors associated with reducing risk across a whole school population.
Since we started Sources of Strength at our school, we're definitely all more connected and more encouraging to one another, and it feels more like a family rather than just a body of students.
The Sources of Strength program would be great for any school, any community. It creates a caring environment that allows people to feel understood. I just can't say enough good about it.
It supports reaching out, it's against isolation, it's about healthy help-seeking behaviors, it's about life.
The other thing I like about it is we do get assistance on this from outside. It's not all completely in here. We've got people coming in and helping us periodically throughout the year. You need some of those different voices from time to time. It can't always be the same people saying the same things. I think it's good when our students and our staff hear it from people outside.
Sources of Strength isn't a one-shot assembly-style program. It's designed to be implemented over the course of a school year and ideally multiple years, because that's really when we start to see systemic culture change happening.
A program that can address the priorities of the schools, their primary educational mission, as well as the mission of enhancing well-being of students is an important and a wise investment for communities to make.
Magic behind the booth. So that kind of is a little nutshell, but what Sources of Strength really is, it's changing the culture of the school. And again, like what the video said, it's not just bringing in, one assembly. It's really something that needs to happen over time, and so that's why we're looking at the 3-year contract. Really what the program does is we train and connect adult advisors with diverse peer leader groups. The groups, depending on the school, can be up to 15 or 80 students. And then there's some strategic messaging, and then they use that over time to change the culture of the school. In the video, it talked about how capitalizing on social networks, and we're all fairly aware when we were looking at our cell phone policy last year how easy things spread through social media. Well, really what Sources of Strength tries to do is change it into a positive message. It uses those social networks within our school and within our community to share hope, help, and strength, and to also, to make it towards more of an environment where students will say something if another student is at risk or in need. It is evidence-based. I know it's very difficult to read all that up there, but it is evidence-based, which means a lot of times we present things that have research behind them, but we want things to be evidence-based to show that they truly have an impact. Earlier today, Trustee May shared another research article with board members where it shows it really is making a difference with students in schools. So what we're looking at in the contract is basically 3 years of targeted training. And this training will be aimed at all 3 of our middle schools and our 2 large comprehensive high schools. We will be using national trainers, not our local state trainers. And we'll be paying for this contract if you approve it this evening through our Title IV funds. The training will include providing professional development for our adult advisors and 1 coordinator for each building. It'll also provide training for the peer leaders. Again, as the video talked about, and as you can see in your packet, there is ongoing support through the course of the 3 years to help each building specifically implement Sources of Strength according to their building's needs, because there will be some different buildings needs. We will have 1 coordinator, like I said before, per building. We will use a leadership award for that person. That coordinator will basically be working with the building leadership team. They'll be working with the various advisors in each building, and they will also be coordinating with each other and the district office to try to make sure that we have a smooth implementation and that we're have things in place to be sustainable. I put the graphic up there as an upstream approach. We do have a crisis assistance team, which was very helpful when we had issues last year, but there is a difference. Crisis assistance is something that happens after a crisis happens, and so what Sources of Strength really is what they call an upstream approach. It's something that's preventative that we do at the beginning. There's an example right there of a stream. It's things that we do to help students so when they get to those rough waters, they know how to navigate them, they know where to go for help. And then maybe we can mitigate and prevent some things from happening. So I would entertain any questions. Dr. Cook would entertain any questions that you may have regarding the contract and the addendum.
Thanks, Dr. Cuddle. That was a great presentation. And what I liked most about this program was the concept that it's upstream. I thought that article really represented that the data is showing that is can be a more effective way to identify our students who are at risk or in need versus an assessment tool or a counselor reaching out. I thought this was fantastic, and I'm excited, and I hope that we get board approval and we can move forward.
Trustee Horn, if I may. I'd just like to add, I think it's really important for us to note for the record that preventative measures are often hard to quantify. And if they're successful, we don't know who we helped. We just know that there is a difference in the feel. And so I think it's really important to note that it does take a different look. It's going to take time, but it's an investment not just in suicide prevention, not just in emotional and mental wellness of students and adults, but it's an investment in impacting the culture and creating a sense of community at each of these schools. Or that's not fair. That's not fair to say at the schools. Enhancing a community at each of the schools so that we start to think about this as a collective. It doesn't mean that we're not going to still have issues where we have students and in some cases adults in crisis, but this is going to give us a very impactful way to help us reduce those kinds of opportunities. And so I just want to qualify this in some regards to say there's not one program that's ever going to solve all our problems, but I feel very confident that this is a good investment for the district's funds and that we should move forward on this.
I would comment. Thank you, Dr. Cottle. I came into this program only like a month ago, and I sat down with Dr. Cook and said, "Do you know about this program?" And he's like, "We've got it covered." So I was really tickled because when I had been introduced to the program, I had heard that the Coeur d'Alene School District was not involved in it, and I thought, okay, well, I have something to bring, but everybody was way ahead of me. So I'm super supportive and really excited. But as a follow-up, I know that we are addressing the higher grade levels, and I know I proposed the question to you, Dr. Cook, so maybe for the public, we do have things at the elementary level in place already.
Yeah, I'd like to invite Dr. Roscoe to come up. We can talk just a little bit about this. I think the first thing to note is that we've set a very lofty goal of getting every staff member trained or retrained in QPR. That would include elementary staff members, which aligns very, very cleanly with the Sources of Strength model. Because it's about approach and it's about how we're addressing and talking with individuals. Secondly, I'm going to mess this up, Dr. Roscoe. TRBI, TBRI.
TBRI.
It's TBRI. It's, and I'm going to let her talk about this. She can do a much better job at this than I can. But this idea of recognizing and understanding that we have an obligation and a responsibility to understand that we are teaching sometimes children that are coming from crisis, and how do we deal best with students that we believe that are coming from traumatic issues. Maybe you've heard of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and the research that's behind that now, what those kids bring sometimes into the classroom. Their behavior is oftentimes indicative of things that they're being subject to, not just that they want to be difficult for us. But I'd like to defer to Dr. Roscoe to have her elaborate on that just a little bit too.
Be happy to. Is it on? And I think Frank can also speak to this. TBRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention, is a specific program out of TCU, Texas Christian University. Do I have that right? TCU? And so they have a program of training the trainers, and it's a really thorough and expensive but well-developed program that helps us understand how to respond to the needs of kids who are coming to us with excessive chronic stress, trauma, etc. Because we know that our children who come to us experiencing those kinds of things need a very different approach. Often the standard kind of procedures, classroom procedures and management that have always worked for kids, those don't work. They need something very different. And we're learning at the elementary level across the board really, but especially our elementary teachers are learning with our littlest students, we're learning how to understand the needs, those emotional and social needs that are underneath that behavior that's often so disruptive. So, and so much of that is around safety. And so we have Keith Orchard, and I think I've mentioned him to some of you board members in the past, but Keith Orchard, who is a phenomenal professional developer and who understands this well, works for the state, for child welfare for the state. He will be offering professional development for all of our elementary staff, all of our certified elementary staff. We're trying to figure out how we might also have him help us with our classified staff as well. But each of our schools will have 4 sessions with Keith over the course of the year, and in those Monday collaborations. And he is not TBRI trained. You'd never know it, but he's not. But he has a tremendous understanding of trauma-informed practices, trauma-informed classrooms. And our instructional coaches and a number of our principal assistants, and Trina and I and several of us, we had that training last year from Keith and learned tons. And I look forward to really helping our teachers understand not just how to respond to the trauma of the child, but also how to create a community of felt safety for our little ones so that they feel connected and they feel like they have strong, powerful relationships that will support them. And I think this will be a big year for our learning.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
I would like to say is As a trustee, you hear certain things that are important in the community. Academics, of course, is always one. And safety of kids in school. And in the last year, it certainly has been suicide prevention because of the tragedies that happened this last spring. So I think it's important, and I support the efforts that are happening both at the elementary level and the secondary level. I think this is an excellent program. This was, actually, I first heard about this program last spring after one of the suicides, and a community member had presented this, or at least contacted me about it. Some other trustees had already heard about it, but that's when I first heard about it. So anyway, I appreciate the efforts the district is doing in this area, and I think it's really important. And I think you said, as Dr. Cook, it's not just for suicide prevention, but it's improving the culture of caring, culture of connection of the kids at the school. Like, that's ultimately, if a kid knows who they can turn to, or they feel cared about, that's going to make a huge difference. You know, I think particularly a lot of schools, you know, the kids just get isolated. They feel isolated. Particularly a large school like Lake City High School. My gosh, you know, it's easy to get lost in the crowd. So it's, I appreciate the efforts that are being made. So trustees, are there further comments, or we're going to need a motion to approve the sources of strength and addendum as presented? This is up for action tonight. It is an action item.
Contract and addendum.
The contract and the addendum, right, yes. Okay. As presented.
Do we have that in our? Okay. So make a motion.
I can make motion. I move to approve the contract as presented.
And addendum.
And addendum.
If
approved.
All right.
Second.
Got that. All right. Any further discussion about that? You got the wording of that, Ms. Down? All right. Okay. No further discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate it again. It's an excellent program. And I appreciate the district efforts over the summer, particularly on this, to make sure this is up and running by this fall. That's really important. We have some policies for action and to talk about here. Those are on page, well, they start on page 80, I guess, of your board packet. So, Ms. Town, your name is written down next to the one called Oath of Office. Do you want to talk about that?
I think we just did that, right?
We just did it, right? So what do we need to do here?
We just did that. This is, find it here. This was some suggested language from ISBA, cleaning up some of that language and just clarifying that if a trustee moves out of their zone, that they can no longer represent or be a school board member. It's more just cleanup than anything else.
Okay. Do you want to handle these as one motion at the end, or how do you want to do each one, or what do you think we should do?
It's written to take them all together, but it's up to you if you want to approve them separately.
Trustees, that'd be a little quicker as we approve them all together. Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions about this policy? Or actually, this is a procedure, isn't it? Procedure.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to 2435, and Mr. Nelson's name is under that one. I'm just looking at my cheat sheet here. Your name is
Then I guess I'll address it. Vice Chair Hearn, Superintendent Cook, and members of the board. 2435 simply puts our advanced opportunities policy in line with new state statute, which puts in additional safeguards to make sure that state monies are used wisely, as well as putting some limitations on how those monies can be used along the way. Again, everything that you see in there is simply redlined because of changes in statute.
Did you have a question, Ms. May?
So, 24. Yeah, the Mastery Advancement Program. That was a term that I wasn't familiar with, so I just wondered if I could have a quick thumbnail sketch. And how many students do we have enrolled in that? And
Sure. We were actually a pilot district of the Mastery Advancement Program when it first came out in the Advanced Opportunity Suite. And so basically what it means is that any student with prior knowledge of content can challenge any of our courses, provided that they pass either our end of course assessment or a commensurate exam. We have had probably 10 total students in the past 3 to 4 years take advantage of that, and most are unfortunately not successful. I believe that most students really believe that they know a lot of content, and then they're surprised when we show the scope and sequence, the textbook, and then they prepare for the exam and are a little shell-shocked with it. It is a great opportunity. For instance, I've known Spanish all my life, and I ended up in Spanish 1 back in high school, it was okay. It wasn't a challenge to me. This would have given me an opportunity to possibly pass out of that course and move through that coursework a little quicker.
That's your question? Okay, any other questions about this one? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nelson. Ms. Town, you're up for the next one here, corrective actions and punishment, which is, which page is that one? That's
It's on page 94.
94, okay.
Policy 3340. This was actually something that we caught internally that matches the language in Idaho Code 33205 that talks about who has the authority to suspend and or expel a student. So the proposed changes in this language match to what the state code reads, and we've cleaned that up for you.
Ms. May, you had some comment?
No,
Did we miss something here?
no, I had a question on this policy.
Okay.
Okay. Just the part where we redlined and it said the Board of Trustees can extend a temporary suspension for an additional 5 days. Are we meeting together to make that determination, or was it upon a recommendation of the superintendent? I thought that was maybe a little bit vague. We meet for expulsion hearings, but this just says that we will make that determination. But how are we making that determination?
It's been used once, maybe twice in my career, where we've had to go beyond the 5 days that the principal can suspend and the 10 days that the superintendent can suspend. That decision, usually that recommendation is made by the superintendent. It would be an extreme case to not be able to pull the board together within 15 days to hold a hearing. We don't want to keep students out of school that long if we don't have to. Like I say, it's been used twice, but that would be at the recommendation of the superintendent. But as I said, the language that we're presenting matches exactly to 33205.
Chair Morris Rowe sent a comment on that one, didn't he? He thought that the statement on page 92 was a little vague, very ambiguous.
That's a different policy. That is,
Well, that's open enrollment.
that's a different one. Yes, we're not there yet.
All right, back it up. Okay. So, any other questions on this policy? All right, we're gonna, huh? Well, we're gonna move on. 3010 will come up here, right? Okay. So, next one is the 7215 fund accounting system, and Katie's up for that.
Yes, we thought we were done with this policy, but ISBA came back and they had some legal changes for us. And basically, what we're trying to accomplish in this policy is to clarify our budget reporting. And on the state's budget report, there's a line item for contingency reserve. And we felt it would be the most clear to put the 5% that we hope to achieve as a district on that contingency reserve line item to make reporting the most clear. However, there is code that says that you cannot put more than 5% in that on that contingency reserve line item, which doesn't really get in the way of what we're trying to accomplish here, but ISBA felt that we needed to state that portion of the code in our policy. Any questions on that?
Okay, is there any questions about this one? I did notice a typo that I pointed out already to Lynn, right? Lynn's already got that.
Casey, or Chair Morrisroe, had a comment on the policy, which I agree. I think that would be more clear. However, in discussing with Ms. Town, we wouldn't be able to put that in for action tonight. It would have to go back for 30-day review. So we'll get on that for the next agenda, because I do believe that his wording was more clear.
So we're not going to deal with that one tonight, 7215? Is that what you're recommending?
What we could act now in order to get the legal changes in, is that? And then with the wording
recommended change from Chair Morrisroe. We could do that.
So we can still act on it, but we'll bring it back for information.
For the legal changes.
All right. Any questions about that one before we move on? One of the more exciting things about this job is dealing with policy. Okay. All right. 1500 board meeting procedures. That one, let's see.
It's back to me.
Which page is that?
Page 84.
We're skipping around here. I was going down, and then there's somewhere going across. All right. I'm sorry about that, folks. All right. So page 84 in your board book. Any comments or questions about that one? Lynn, you're up for that one.
That one again is House Bill 611 that requires boards to identify items on their agenda, whether or not they are action items or information items. So we've made that change. This is the third month that it's very clear on the agenda what is what, which brings us into compliance with that statute. Chair Morrisroe suggested, and this would be a good addition. It does match up with the open meeting law, where we've on page 84, regular meeting agendas and special meeting agendas at the end, where it says all meeting notices and agendas shall be posted, as opposed to must. That's how the code reads, on the district website or a social media platform. So they are requiring that you do post it on your website. Every district in Idaho has one. And you can also include it on your social media website or social media platforms. So that was a suggested wording change by Chair Morrisroe, to add the words, to change must to shall, and to add the words or social media platform, which also fits with the statute.
Okay. All right. Any trustees present have any question about that one? Nope. All right. Moving down this column. So then we're back at open enrollment 3010, which was, what page was that?
92.
92. We're skipping around here. Sorry. I went down the column, but in the board book they're, I mean, they're across. So sorry. Okay, so Ms. May, you had a comment about this one, didn't you?
Yeah, I can wait. I don't know who's presenting this one. Is it you, Lynn? No.
Trina is.
Page 92.
The Chair Morrisroe also had a question about this one, and I have the answer to that question.
Well, maybe tell us your question. We won't duplicate.
He felt that on page 3010 P1, which is on page 92, that the addition of letter D under number 1, in some cases additional information may be required, and if so, the applicant will be notified. His statement was that he felt that was redundant, and I did check to find out what the reasoning was to add that, and it was some students, especially at secondary, who may be transferring in from another district, we would also ask them to provide any discipline and or grades prior to their transfer request being approved.
Okay. Ms. May, does that answer? Do you have further concerns here? Or?
Mine was on item number 2, and it was the discrepancy between elementary and secondary, that once a student's accepted into the school at an elementary level, they have to get annual approval, but if it's at a middle school or secondary, then they're grandfather claused in, and I didn't know the reasoning behind that, and I figured there probably was one. It states, let's see if I can find it. Yeah. Yeah, an elementary open enrollment application will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis and is granted a year-to-year basis. But then B and C, it will remain at that school throughout their high school years. So I wasn't sure the reasoning for the between.
So we're going to tag team here. We have both of you up here. All right.
I don't know for sure that that's entirely accurate, just because a few years ago, remember in the spring, the board had decided that we would work really hard to keep kids in their schools, because we felt like the continuity of that experience for little ones was important. It's why when we opened up Hayden Lake and it became Nexa, why we insisted that all of those children who were going to be in that zone would go to the school, with the exception of 5th graders, because we thought that they would want to complete that 5 or 6 years at any given school. So in practice, what we've tried to do is really maintain consistency and coherence by keeping kids in their schools. That said, we struggle every year, and I think you all know this because I'm sure there's a lot of folks chirping in your ear, but every year we struggle with the fact that families are moving in next door to, literally, almost, next door to schools where there's no room for their children. And we know that those seats in those schools aren't completely full of in-zone families, that there are children who have been going there for a number of years. So it really is competing commitments there that we're trying to walk that line, and there aren't easy answers, but we're trying really hard to be consistent about keeping families together, protecting fragile families, and keeping kids in an experience, in a community experience where they can finish out their elementary career in one school. I mean, those are kind of our priorities.
I remember that Dalton always got brought up with this circumstance, so I wondered if this policy was because of Dalton and their septic issue, that they only can accept a certain number of students every year, and they had students that were requesting transfer into that school. That being said, with the number of forced transfers that we have had, I think it would be important to have policy that protects those families that we've asked to move school 1 year and not require them to move school again. So if we want to, if you know.
Yeah, Lisa, I'm glad you brought that up. We actually developed for ourselves a set of procedures. The elementary administrative team did 2 years ago, a set of procedures that says how do we prioritize the needs of our kids. And on the top of that list is if our little ones have been forced transferred to a school, we let them tell us at the end of that school year, do you want to go back to your home school, or do you want to stay because you've developed community there? And we're trying desperately to honor that promise, so that they're a priority for us.
I'm wondering if we should look at this policy then and maybe maybe reconsider rewording it to provide those protections for those students. Because now if you look at it and if a parent was moving into the district, it looks as though there's not any protection annually for those students if they're transferred at elementary level.
That's possible. I know that previously the administrative team and superintendents have felt it's really important to allow ourselves the flexibility to be able to address those issues, because I think the minute we put that in policy and say, no, once in, you're always in, no matter what, it's surprising to me what the kinds of possibilities that emerge. And one of them is when we make that statement and we make that promise in policy, then before you can say boo to the goose, we'll have families who we forced out and they want to return, and we don't have space because, by golly, we have it in policy. So I'm wondering if that's requires a more lengthy conversation.
Yeah, and I think conversely then maybe we need to look at B and C, because we are guaranteeing that at a middle and high school level, and we know we're really crowded at the middle and high school level. So now we are guaranteeing that once in, they're always in. So I just don't know if generally this policy needs to be looked at again. And so it's consistent. I'm not necessarily comfortable with saying one thing for elementary and something different for secondary, because I get the theory in saying once you're in a community and a school, you should be allowed to remain. I would like to see that policy be consistent amongst all of our grades, but maybe it needs to be worded in a way that allows for overcrowding in certain years. I'm not sure, but I think there's discrepancy here.
Ms. May, we could pull this policy out and you could work with them on the wording? Would you like to do that? Or Dr. Cook?
Yeah, I think, Trustee May, I think you have very valid points. I think whether or not we want to formalize it, formalize the difference in policy, right now, the way this reads procedurally, we have more flexibility at the elementary level because we can, being able to grant the conditions on a case-by-case and year-by-year basis gives administrators quite a bit of flexibility in that delivery. I think that it's very disruptive once you get into, I'm not justifying anything here, but I think once if you look down, what is it, E, second bullet under E, current enrollment at the school, grade, or program is at or above 95% of the current recommendation of teacher class loads. I think that applies in almost every school we have. So that in fact kind of nullifies this, and I think this is something we could look into, but I'm not sure that spending a significant amount of time on this right now is going to have a large impact, because we don't have a lot of flexibility in any of our schools. And so if the board is so inclined to want us to work on this, that you're not going to get hesitation from us. I can tell you we're going to bring you back something that we feel like we would have decision-making and authority to do what we feel like is best for each student on an individual basis. But I can tell you also that one of the things that we will always try to do is honor the sense of community that a student feels about whatever school they're in. And that if we've moved them out of their school, then and they have a new sense of community, that's a different decision than if they want to go back to their original school.
I just think my concern is the lack of consistency in this policy, and C and D contradict E, like you said, and so does C trump E and D trump E? It's a confusing policy, and I think there is work to do. Maybe this year isn't the year, and maybe when we work on boundaries and we're making some difficult decisions, that would be a great time to dive into this, but I think it could be better.
I think that's a great...
Soon let's not vote on this one tonight if it needs that much work, and pull it out and bring it back in a month or two. Can we do that?
Sure. It's your guys' call.
I'd like to see it coincide with, I think we're talking about looking at our attendance zones as this elementary school is built. So I think this ties into whatever consultant we bring in. When we redefine zones, there will be many difficult decisions, and I think this should be cleaner when we make those decisions.
Absolutely.
And I would just add in a secondary perspective, I agree, it's a very old procedure, and really the suggestions are from ISBA, and we now, have an issue district-wide, where before secondary really didn't have a big issue, especially at middle schools, and we had some room. So enrollment is an issue, and I really do think it needs to be reworked.
This policy gave me heartburn for you, because I know our high schools are overcrowded, and one's more overcrowded than the other. And reading this, I thought this could pose a problem down the road. So.
Okay, then I would suggest that since Ms. May, you're willing to work with the administration, that we when we vote at the end of these policies, we exclude that policy, or that procedure, I guess it is.
You could vote to approve the changes that are being presented and bring it back at a later time to address what Mrs. May is bringing to light.
Well, as long as we address the issue before it's,
Then that way we've addressed the the red line changes that have been proposed, you could approve those this evening and then with a note, and I'll make a note to bring it back
Okay.
for further discussion. Okay.
Well, before we start making these decisions again, right? Sometime this school year, I would think. Okay, thank you for your input on this one. Okay, we're at 3440, student fees, fines, charges. Katie?
This one is coming back to you all after being out for review. It doesn't appear that any comments came through on it, so do you have any questions on this policy?
30, which one is it? 3440?
I don't know if we have the same page numbers.
Hang on, we're on page 96.
This is the one that clarified in relation to all-day or full-day kindergarten, right? Can you explain that a little bit? Maybe it was kind of what...
So this policy, we rewrote it, I think, last fall in order to be a resource for mainly principals and teachers as far as what our fee charging policy is. We don't want to charge any fees for anything instructional or occurring during the instructional day. And it was some strong wording was added to the policy to make it clear to our personnel here at the district on when fees can be charged. One thing I noticed when I was looking over this policy is that a parent may be able to read through this policy and come away with a reasonable expectation that this policy would not allow us to charge tuition for the full day K pilot. And so I felt that it was important to add in an exception for the all-day K pilot at this point. And now this isn't an all-encompassing policy for all-day K or the all-day K pilot. It's just an exception to an existing policy in order to make sure that policy gives the authority for us to charge that tuition. Any questions?
Okay. Questions or comments about this? Thank you very much. Okay, so we are the last one in the group here, right? Which is 8600 on page 102. Ms. Town, you're up for that one.
Thank you. Once again, this is revising language from Senate Bill 1271. Requires districts to name a custodian of public records. If you recall, that was an extra motion that you made at the July annual meeting to designate the clerk as the custodian of the records. This also would name the acting clerk as the alternate custodian of records. So in my absence, not only does she fill in as the clerk, in my absence, she would also fill in as the custodian of the records.
Okay. So whoever that is.
That is Pam Westberg.
Pam Westberg, okay. Any questions about this one, trustees? Okay, so what page is it on? Page 80 is a motion, okay. So we decided these ones we were going to, it sounds like based on this discussion, we're gonna approve these with a couple of them being brought back for further review, right? Is that clear to everybody? Okay. So, who would like to make the motion on page 80? It's bottom of page 80, actually.
I move to approve the policy and procedures as presented tonight.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, great. Now, Dr. Cook, I get to hand this stuff over to you for a while to talk about a lot of things, and starting off with property.
Yeah, so we're going to present quite a bit of informational items to you tonight. The first one is we'd like to go on the record. Actually, this is a conditional recommendation. And I'll explain that in just a second. But as you know, we've been looking at, or under contract with NISC for a property right along the Hutter boundary. And our recommendation was to purchase this property for $1.2 million, contingent on three things. And the three contingencies were, first of all, that it passed due diligence with us. Secondly, that the property appraised at or above the value recommended, at the value that we were purchasing the property for. And then the third one, which we have a little bit of a hiccup on, is the fact that it was appropriately annexed into the district. I can report to you that there's good news that it is in the district. However, if we do wind up going under contract, or if we do wind up approving this, it still needs conditional approval until the tax commission formalizes that we have the authority to tax this particular property acquisition into the boundaries. It has been approved by the state. That is approved. The tax commission is just a little behind, giving us the authority to tax that property. And so we have talked with folks at the airport, and we presented to you some documentation that shows that it is out of any kind of zone that the airport would consider unsafe for a school to be located. They did note to us that there is a noise ordinance area, kind of zone of impact area, that this particular piece of property would fall in that area of, I think, I'm going to ask Director of Operations, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind taking the mic just at the podium, and I think he knows the exact decibels of this area. I will tell you that we currently have a school in this site. Atlas Elementary is in that area that is considered, and they sent us this very lengthy article about how sound can impact learning, and do you happen to remember what that decibel amount was on this?
Yes, good evening, Vice Chair Hearn and trustees, Dr. Cook. The decibel readings were 65, and that was in the zone identified in the blue in the map that you guys have in your board packet. And then the further out, which kind of borders our property, is a 55 decibel reading. And that's an average decibel reading that they've taken over time. And I would also point out that that's a decibel reading from outside versus sitting inside of a building. And Atlas Elementary, also to note, is also in that same zone.
Yeah. Thank you. And so we just wanted to have an opportunity to entertain any of the questions. This is for information only. If you guys had anything that you needed clarification on these recommendations, I do have to reiterate that right now this would be a conditional a recommendation based upon the tax commission's. In essence, it's in our district. The students that live in that area are now ours to educate if they were to choose. If you recall, we went through a process with Post Falls to make sure that impacted students on either side of this change could be grandfathered into their existing districts, kind of almost like what Dr. Roscoe said, that we wanted, if they felt their sense of community was in their current district, that was fine. If they wanted to go to the other one, that was acceptable as well. However, the tax commission gives us authority to tax those areas, and we don't have that letter as of yet. And I just was in contact with Megan right as we started the meeting to say, have we gotten anything yet? And we still haven't received that. So that's where we stand currently.
Go ahead. Do we have
I
questions?
had a question, and I'm not sure it might be for you, Mr. Moore, but it was in the appraisal, and it was a very detailed appraisal, but one of them was the development costs. They were giving us some examples of development costs for roads and sewer. Were those costs, they seem reasonable, or they seemed high to me, but I didn't know if those were costs that we were kind of already anticipating. It was for roads and sewers.
So I'm glad to take that. Whether or not you're going to ask me if $600,000 for sewers are reasonable. There's development is actually happening in the area, and so what we would be getting the benefit of over time is that it wouldn't be all on us to develop that particular location. There are others that are out there in that area developing. There is a partnership right now between a developer and the city of Hayden to build a very large sewer lift station just north of this property that we would, with some cost, be able to plumb into. It would definitely be worth investing a look into. I would strongly remind the board that this is not necessarily a location that is prepped to build immediately. This is a land bank. This is being recommended to you as a land bank acquisition for something for a couple of years down the road. And
So I have a question on the land bank concept.
Yeah.
What can 40 acres support in terms of school buildings?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I actually walked the property with the owners, and in 40 acres is a large number of acreage. And in 40 acres, you can put, I think Brian and I talked about this, I think Lake City High School, just the acreage that's around that with the fields and everything, is about 25 acres, is that right? Coeur d'Alene High School. Okay, so all of the Coeur d'Alene, that's about 24 acres. So theoretically, in 40 acres, if you wanted, you could put a high school, a middle school, and an elementary school without assuming that all 40 acres are buildable. And we've got no reason right now to believe that that's not the case. Or you could put 3 elementary schools if you were so inclined.
Or you could put a K-8, who knows?
You could put you could put, it's a large enough space that you would have a lot of flexibility to build in a fashion that best suited the needs of the district. And I think that's the reason that this piece of ground is such an intriguing piece of ground for the district.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the update. And I think that sewer news is encouraging news to know that there are developers who are moving forward, and we're, maybe not next year, but within, a short amount of time, there is sewer that we'll be able to connect to. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think that weighed heavily on our recommendation. And I think if you go out to that particular area, if you drive on Hutter, if you look west on Hutter at this particular intersection, the street is Harvest. If you look right, it's a dirt road that is called Bean. And if you look far enough right, it's Honeysuckle. And so all of that is going to need to be built out. And so there's already houses slated to go in the area. So I think it's an opportunity that would be well served for the district to look into.
I'd like to say I'm actually real excited about this piece of property. I think it's been a long road to get here. I see it, with 40 acres of land, that really meets our district property needs for schools for a decade, in my opinion. Because realistically, we're not going to be building on this thing for some time. We have to pass a bond, right? And then we have to go through all the efforts we need to do to build a school. So we have to define what we need. Do we need another high school? Do we need another middle school? Do we need a couple, whatever. So I'm saying this really is exciting to me. Also, I think it makes sense that, let's say we build 5 or 10 years from now, there will be some more housing developments in that area, as has already been discussed, which will lessen our costs. So we're not running everything out to that property ourselves. We're helping developers and working with the city of Hayden, et cetera, on the property. So, to me, this is something that it's also in the part of town that people have been wanting us to have property in. So I'm really excited about it. Some of those development costs I think were expensive, Ms. May, I agree. But on the other hand, I don't see that as something we have to deal with for probably 5 years or more. And by then, hopefully we'll have some development around us that'll help us on that. And that also could be something proposed as far as a bond if we need to. That'd be tied into the bond. So anyway, I just think it's a great, the whole idea of having a land bank of actually finally, after all the drama, for lack of a better word, over the last few years about looking for property, we finally have a piece of property that will meet all our needs for schools for the next 5 to 10 years, in my opinion.
I do want to remind the board, if you recall, we talked about this July meeting, at the July board meeting, And the question was asked, originally the amount that was budgeted for this particular decision was $1 million, and this recommendation is for an additional $200,000. And if you recall, we asked our Director of Finance to assure us that we had enough wiggle space somewhere in our capital budget to meet that additional cost of $200,000. And I just, she's not prepared with the numbers, and I don't want to put her on the spot, but I do want to reiterate that if you recall that she said, yeah, we could, there is enough flexibility. We would not be bringing this to you as a recommendation if we did not feel like, when it comes to bond funds and construction and all those different things, that we had some opportunities that we could assume that extra $200,000 in this purchase. So our recommendation is to place this out for until the next board meeting for the opportunity for public comment and to see where things are and just see what transpires from that point.
And then take action possibly at the next board meeting, right? To close the deal, I guess, is we're talking about, right?
And
Okay.
I just want to thank Jeff Voller for his opportunity to come up and talk about decibels.
Right. Seems to me the biggest concern we had talked about when we were searching for property was not so much the sound. It doesn't sound like sound's a big issue, but the closeness of the school to the airport in terms of safety, and this is not a safety concern. It's not in that. It's not in the. Dave Eubanks called it the quote kill zone unquote. I thought it was a little graphic. I thought, but I understand where he was coming from on that.
Yeah, and for the record, in the response from the airport, they said they would not oppose a school at that site. They just wanted us to be aware of those noises and potential impact.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item F, construction update. Brian Martin's been so patiently waiting for his opportunity to bring his yellow pad up and tell us how much money he's saving us.
Good evening, board. A lot like last month, we're in good shape, all the funding. There we go. Good evening, board. Things are pretty much like last month. Our funding is doing well. All of our budgets are online for our budgets, our funding. I just want to start off by, I would like to thank a whole bunch of people in the Coeur d'Alene School District for all the hard work. We had probably pulled about 20 people out of their regular jobs to help us put these schools together the last week before school started. I'd like to, 3 people in particular would be Bob Harvey, he's the head of our custodial. Kevin Jennings is our foreman for maintenance. And then Jody Hildenberg, she is our new, did I say her name right? Hilton Brand. She is our new principal over at Dalton, so she walks in and to a building, and after 3 days she says, when are we going to get windows? And so anyway, she was outstanding. She really did a great job. But there was a lot of hard work done. A lot of people worked through the whole weekend and even Labor Day to pull it off. The teachers, especially at Dalton, I have to say, you guys, they were there every day. So I had to say that first. Scott's got us a little video here of Coeur d'Alene High School on the gym. So if we can run that. That's when all the plastic blew down the first time, then the second time, then the wall got hit. They finally gave up on that. This is a tilt-up system, and you're going to see where they're going to be pouring concrete for the tilt-ups. That's right there, they're making them. There they go up. The massive concrete panels that were put up. So it's pretty exciting over Coeur d'Alene High School. I'm going to start with Dalton. Dalton was scheduled to be done here at the end of this week or last week, and it didn't happen. We had a huge issue with windows, and so it held up a lot of different things over on the project. It will be done by the end of September, probably in the next couple weeks, but we're giving it till the end of September to get completely done. The only thing that isn't done right now is the new stage area. All the classrooms are completed and all the kids are in school, so it's in good shape. It was just the stage area that we basically said, leave it alone, let's get the classrooms open. Lake City High School, the gym will be done November 1st. I should probably follow the time. There's Dalton. If you can look at that yellow on there, that's Mrs. Failing's room. The windows aren't in, that's plywood. She went and decorated them so they wouldn't look like plywood. There's the gym. You can see all the plastic on the back side, but we're sealed off the back side so we can get the stage finished. But they're using the gym for music and gym right now. There's the new stage area. They're pretty much on their way. We have flooring and just have our drop-in ceilings going in, so we're in really good shape there. Then there's a big set of doors that we put up for soundproofing. That's inside the music room. That's storage for all the music department. That's really a nice area. Right there is Lake City High School. That's the new classroom area that's done. There's a new classroom. That's a science area. This here is, I believe that is Coeur d'Alene High School. No, that's Lake City High School.
It's a new science high school.
Yeah, that's the new science room at Lake City High School. There's the gym that's going up at Lake City High School. They're putting up their installation inside the new gym. There is Coeur d'Alene High School's new classrooms. They're looking at the skylights. So we got skylights over there.
Who are those people there?
It's our board. There's the front entry of Coeur d'Alene High School. There's our new principal. There is the gym that's being remodeled, expanded. You're looking at the wrestling room that's being built on that end right now. There's a lonely old guy that just can't wait for school to open up, I guess. All right, so Lake City's gym will open up November 1st. The weight room is going to be opening up right about the second week of November. The wrestling room will be opening up December 8th. So we're right on target there within a couple days of what we originally started with. Coeur d'Alene High School, the gym will be closed, completely closed by the end of this month, by the end of September. The entryway that you saw with the big V on there, that will be October 15th. We think we're going to have that opened. And then the gym will be done December 1st. So the projects are really doing well. We've had a lot of problems, but it's something that's going on all over the country. The windows on this one has been the biggest issue on all of our projects. But again, I'd just like to thank those guys. I'd also like to, now that I think about it, I like the day custodians, we call them facility managers, at Dalton, and his name is Alan. And then Larry is over at Coeur d'Alene High School, and Sonny is at Lake City High School. These guys, what we did is they were the person, they were the contact person. They helped pack everything to put it away, and so when it came to unpacking and putting these schools back together, they were key for us to know where everything was and put them together. So they also did a lot of work, and they also worked all the way through the weekends too. So, any questions?
Brian, I just wanted to personally thank you for taking time out of your busy, busy week to give us all a tour. It was fantastic to see the schools, and they looked great.
A lot of hard work.
We're doing okay financially, right? Not.
Yeah. No,
the
we're
contingency
really doing
funds
well.
are we dipping into those some?
We are doing really good. Our fund balance is in good shape right now. Our contingency is real low. We were just talking about it today. The one that got hit the worst, or hardest, I should say, was Coeur d'Alene High School because we had some underground issues with soil and old sewer lines. But we're in very, very good shape on the funding right now, so we're real happy about that. So, and we're out of the ground and we're on the straightaway right now, so I think we're going to be great. We're going to be in good shape. All right?
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, Dr. Cook.
All right, leadership awards. Kelly is going to come up and help us with leadership awards.
All right. Vice Chair Hearn, Superintendent Cook, members of the board, district administration. You have a list of leadership awards in front of you. Really no changes from last year. Had a couple number changes is all as far as the number of stipends that we were giving in some different areas just to match what we were doing, but didn't know if you had any questions on these.
I just had a question. Do teachers apply or administrators apply for these awards, or how are they?
Principals ask them to do them in most
them.
cases, yeah.
Is this a line item in our budget? Can you explain that?
We get the money from the state, so we're just a pass-through to the
That's
employees.
what I thought. It's something it's a line item. They want us to do this.
Yes,
It's not just general.
Right, it was part of pay for performance. When they took money out of the salary schedule, they put some into leadership awards. 1 year only commitment, so every year we always wait to see if they're going to continue to fund it. Okay.
Questions, trustees?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Dr. Nelson. That's it?
Okay. Chair, Vice Chair Hearn and Superintendent Cook, members of the board, we have some brand new course pacing guides in your packet this evening. The first continues our work in addressing new standards. You may remember that we had a sweeping amount of change in art, music, and the humanities. Since we've received those brand new standards midway of the year last year, we brought together collaborative groups to be able to say, how do we meet and exceed those standards? This is the first time that we've addressed kindergarten through 5th grade music since 2003. So this is a good opportunity for us to be able to bring pieces together. And you'll notice a very interdisciplinary approach. Even though our students only have an hour of time a week in music in these grade levels, you'll see a great amount of understanding of rhythm and movement and how to create in that time. I really applaud our elementary music teachers who have come together to put that through. The other two are a little bit unique. The first is from Multicultural Art from Canfield Middle School. Canfield experienced a little bit lower course selection in Spanish than they were expecting. So to be able to make sure that their teacher was well used and her experiences were passed along well, they've created a new course proposal for Multicultural Art, which takes her experiences in using the language but also builds upon the culture and habits of the Spanish-speaking world. That is again presented to you for information, and it would be a humanities-based course. The other course is a course that has been resurrected for Lake City High School, again at the last moment. Young adult literature is again an interdisciplinary course. It's considered to be a high school elective, where students are getting another opportunity in the semester to read deeper, more complex texts in a variety of different genres. Of course, the titles within that would also have to be approved by our ad hoc committee. The first part of that would be to make sure that the course meets your expectations. And then at that point, each of those titles that are listed subsequently would go through ad hoc, and we'll present that to you if you so choose at a later time. I'll be glad to stand for any questions that you may have.
As usual, there's a lot of information on these on these course pacing guides. Does anybody have any questions?
I was excited to see another opportunity for young adult literature.
Yeah.
It's a nice course.
And Trustee Hearn, you mentioned about the amount of context. It's really important for us for two reasons to put as much out there as possible. We do recognize that we sadly have turnover in our district, and we don't want the staff turnover to ever lead to a lack of continuity in our coursework. So having that much context out there is important. The other thing that's important is that once approved, all of these course pacing guides go right out to our district website. So any parent or guardian who has a student in any of these courses down the way can see the exact same expectations we provide, and hopefully provide some context to their students. And we do communicate that out annually.
Yeah, I'm actually fine with it. It's just a lot of reading.
Yep,
That's
it
all.
is. It's a lot of creating
If we
as
read
well.
it all, actually, I don't read every page of it, but I try to get a sense of it anyway. So, I think we're okay here. Thank you, Dr. Nelson.
We'll put these out for 30-day review, and we'll be back next month to see what people think. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to ask Scott Maben, Director of Communications, to come up and give a fantastic commercial to our new app. We have an app. If you don't have it, you need to download our app. Come on, guys. Download our app.
Yes, please. Thank you, Dr. Cook. Good evening, Vice Chair Hearn and trustees, and welcome, Trustee Brumley. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about our new app that is just really now a few weeks old. We've just begun marketing this really here within the district, and so I'm pretty excited about the potential. We've been talking about this, and it will come up. I'm trying to get my screen here. Here we go. Here we go. Yay! There it is. Yay! Okay, now we're on the home page of the app. So we've been really talking about this now for several years before I was with the district, just wanting to find a new, convenient, fast, modern way to connect our families and our patrons and the public with what's happening with the district, with the school board, and with our schools. So we began to get serious about this really last spring when we were taking a look at renewing the web hosting contract through Blackboard. We were able to add this mobile app feature, which is now fully integrated into the Blackboard messaging system that we use for sending district-wide email, for our newsletters, as well as emergency notifications. So we worked on this really throughout the summer, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge all the effort and hard work that Victoria Michael in our communications office at the district office has put into making this happen. She really deserves a lot of the credit for what you're seeing on your screen. You know, the form, the function of this tool, as well as now our efforts to promote it widely. So thank you, Victoria. So like I mentioned, we began to spread the word on this just a few weeks ago, and I'm happy to report that as of today, the Coeur d'Alene Public Schools app has been downloaded nearly 500 times from the Apple Store and 260 times from Google Play. So I think we are well on our way to our first 1,000 followers. And we'll just keep promoting this heavily through the year. So we've come a long way in getting it published. We know that we have a lot more that we want to do to make this really look and function exactly like we hope it to. You know, there's some wrinkles that we definitely need to iron out. There's some missing pieces that you'll see if you've been using it. But already, I feel like it has a lot to offer. We have 26 of these icons. You're seeing the first 6 here on my screen. These are essentially shortcuts to a lot of the information that we feel people are looking for. And one neat aspect of this that I think a lot of the users will appreciate is that we can configure it by the schools that our users are affiliated with. whatever schools that their children attend or where they work or whatever they want to follow. So that way they will get the news, the events, the important notices that they're most interested in. So I'd just like to take a couple minutes and show you some of the highlights. You've been seeing this on the homepage, this top stories feature kind of scrolling through. Basically that's showing recent posts. You saw today's freshman orientation. We have to fix that little problem you're seeing right there that comes up with some of the video. But the freshman orientation at Coeur d'Alene High School right there, that was a fun event just this morning, and so we were there taking pictures, and it's already up on Facebook, and it's immediately popping into the app. I wanted to talk about the notification button you're seeing with the little number 1 in the corner. So basically that shows you if you have a new message waiting from the district or from one of your student schools. So hey, let's check and see. There's apparently a board meeting tonight. I had to for hours today avoid hitting that so I wouldn't make it go away. But that's just kind of that's actually the first one. That's the first push notification that we've sent out with this. But schools will be able to use it. And again, if you're following just your student schools, you'll just directly get what you're interested in receiving. All right, we'll get away from that. News and celebrations right here is just sort of a compilation of, again, well, that doesn't look good. Yeah, that's so that why you're seeing that kind of pixelated is that was a Facebook live stream that we did at the start of the meeting tonight, and for some reason the video images just come in a little fuzzy. So we're going to work on that. But hey, we did some live streaming on Facebook tonight. Anyway, this is just again kind of some highlights of social media posts, calendar events, web posts. We have a calendar you'll see here in the top right corner. We have a directory. I want to go to the directory real quick here. This is a directory of every school in the district. And then if you want to click, you can see the staff. This is at Venture High School. And if you want to go farther, we'll visit Miss Clark in math. And for now, you can see at least there's a link to how to contact her. But we can add more. We can add little bios or explanations of their current classes. That will take a lot of time. That's pretty time and labor intensive to add all this. But over time, that's what we hope to start adding to make this really a robust experience for our families. Dr. Cook gets his own page here with his email address, his Twitter feed, a link to his recent video for students and families. I'm going to swipe it, and you'll see a host of other apps, school lunch menus. Here's the trick on that, by the way. I know some people have had questions about this. When it comes up, the trick is, and this is basically, it takes you to a calendar. You want to go to list view, and there it is right there. So tomorrow's lunch looks like cheese yummies, the middle school level, so don't miss that.
That's for my kid.
Let's see, what else? We have links to our transportation department, so you can have bus schedules and routes and everything listed there. We have a lot of district resources we've put up here. You can see we can add as much as we want to this. It's already got quite a bit going on in there. Weather closure info, how to apply for free or reduced meals, our suicide prevention information. We have a link to the Board of Trustees. That basically takes you to the page where on our website, but you can also link directly to all of you. And there you are. It's official. Job applications. We got the shout out feature, share the love. This is to if you want to acknowledge a staff member, a volunteer, a student. We're already receiving. We've had this up as on our webpage for some time, but we're already receiving shout outs this year, which we can share then on social media. This report a threat icon here, I want to just take a minute. You'll see that the first thing it advises is if it's an emergency, please call 911. We've had, I believe, 3 people use this function of the app so far in the last 2 weeks. Basically, this will send a notification immediately to a group of administrators at the district level and the school level, depending on what school this entails or involves, as well as law enforcement. And of course, you'll see down here our YouTube channel link, and then go to the last page, our other social media. So I'm not going to, I missed a few things, but just have some fun, play around with it. Feel free to give us some feedback. Like I said, it's early. We know we have a lot to work on. We'll be visiting all the principals at all our schools, as well as the web editors, to begin the process of working with them on how to use this to the best extent and the greatest benefit for them. We're plugging it on our website, on Facebook and Twitter. We put a promotion for it in our First Family newsletter. We'll be printing up some info cards and posters. So you'll be hearing a lot. You'll get tired of hearing about the app, I hope. I think that's it. Yeah, happy to answer any questions.
I just had a comment. I've had the app on my phone, I think a couple weeks. I know you guys had sent it out, but I hadn't downloaded it yet, just didn't get to it. And one of my daughter's friends' mom was like, "Oh, I'm just going to go in here on the app." And I was like, "You have the Coeur d'Alene app?" "Oh, yeah." She said, "It's so awesome, so easy to use." She'd log on to Skyward, and I was like, I should probably put that app on my phone. So I downloaded it immediately, and it's so amazing and awesome. And I did have one question, because when you used to hit directory, which I've used a number of times to just hit the school, it used to take you to where you could go to the website. Now it gives you a list of the staff. Is that link gonna go back on there? That would take you to the school itself?
A link to the school's website?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, that was there this morning, and I'm not sure what happened today. We were messing around with some of this.
Because I noticed that changed. I wanted to ask about it, because that was very useful to take you directly to your kids.
Yeah. Exactly, and I'm not sure why it's not displaying right now, and if it's just a thing with the
Mine has the teachers.
Yeah, mine has
Apple
some
products,
teachers.
but the first thing you would see is if you went to any of these schools, is you would see before the staff listing, you would see contact information, website, phone number,
Yeah, that's
email,
what it was.
all that, and then also you would see the administrative team, and we're working to make sure all the office staff are prominently listed in that spot, and then you would go to all staff. So something's amiss there, and we'll figure it out. We'll be on the phone again with Blackboard in the morning, I'm sure.
It's very helpful and useful. I've gone to it many times so far already. Logged into Skyward once I remembered my username and password.
Thank you.
I've used it too, and it's very excellent. I don't have any kids in this. Well, I guess I do have I have a daughter a granddaughter in the district. But yeah, it's excellent. Very well done, easy to use. And thank you for doing this. It kind of brings us into the modern era here. Have our own little app. It's great.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know Victoria worked hard on this, and I appreciate her.
She really has, and it still is. That was the one feature my wife insisted works and works well. So, but I also want to mention that our nutrition services staff also puts a lot of effort into producing those monthly menus that are so nice to be able to download, and there's a lot of additional information regarding nutrition, and just it's a more robust product, and so still print those out and put them on the refrigerator, if you would.
If I may, I'd also like to shamelessly promote our YouTube channel. If we can just get 11 more subscribers, we actually will move to a next level, and it unlocks some services for us. So if everybody in this room would just go ahead and subscribe right now. We would get over the hump.
I think we will.
Send.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments?
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've talked about taking a break, but we want to go through these real quickly here, or what are we looking at here?
Your guys' decision. This is annual policy review. All of these policies are currently in place, and there's not one that has any change at this point. It's just we are statutorily obligated to review them annually, and so there's not any action necessary. If you guys want to do that now, or if you want to take a break, either one, it's fine. The one thing I would say on this, I think it's pretty standard. The one that I would bring your attention to is 3530. We're actually in the process of redoing 3530, the current suicide policy. We're going to be bringing that to you. I don't know. It'll be a little bit of time. I think we need a little more time. We're redoing that from top to bottom, and so while we need statutorily, we need you guys to just be aware that we've reviewed these. There are no recommendations or changes on this at this time. However, we will be bringing a new recommended policy to you regarding 3530, probably 2 months, something like that, as a part of a bigger package of mental health kind of initiatives. So
I had some concerns about 3295 and just the hazing, harassment, intimidation, bullying. It delineates some of the items: intimidation, bullying, cyberbullying, and I'd like to see us actually include hate speech in here somehow. I know we had talked a couple months ago about doing that. I don't know if this is a policy where we want to incorporate that, but it seems like it could be a spot that it would fit, and then I think it would also help with the procedures on how we treat hate speech, how we document it, report it. I just think in light of this last year, it was something that we should definitely consider.
okay, thank you for that feedback.
Okay, so there's no action we take tonight, but does anybody have any questions or comments about any of these policies?
And I guess one more thing on the hate speech. I do think that'll require some legal, I think because the term is complex, I would just like to make sure Megan has a look at it and gives us advice on how we should include it in that policy.
You got it.
Anything else? Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute bio break here, folks. Well, then we won't take it. We're not talking about going through the last item then. I guess you can hold on a little bit longer for
We
us.
still have executive session.
Huh?
Yeah, there'll be a recess after this.
Okay, so we're going to recess and then we're going to go into executive session. So, okay, we can make it to recess here. Okay.
All right, last item, just some policies that we're going to recommend updates on this. Lynn, do you want to work us through these?
Thank you. 1210. Find my notes. This is on page 306 of your packet. Cleaned up some of the language again. We don't have a president of the board. We refer to a chair of the board. We don't have an assistant clerk. We have an acting clerk. The question that came up today, I know Chair Morrisroe asked this question, and it was about striking the line that the chair may not make a motion but may second motions. I believe that's part of Robert's rules, which we use as a guideline. We don't follow Robert's rules by the book. We have, on occasion, had a motion made by the chair. It's not anywhere in statute or code that it's prohibited. Typically, the chair does not. Typically, the chair will defer to the rest of the members of the board, but it's not something that's statutorily prohibited. So I don't know how that ended up in there or where it came from, but we would recommend striking that sentence so that the chair could make a motion.
Okay.
That's the change on that one. And then the next one is Jeff, 8140.
Okay, good evening again. Just briefly, on page 307 in your board packet, in reference to student bus safety, we felt it was necessary with the addition of seatbelts on the buses. On line item number 6, you'll see we added buckle seatbelts when available. So felt like that was necessary to clarify the use of the seatbelts on the bus.
Are we doing anything else? I assume we're updating the bus driver's manual or other things. Can you talk about that briefly? That we're doing about the seatbelt issue?
Yeah, we would be working on some procedures for that. So we're in the process of developing those and giving bus driver training on how to use those and how to assess those with the students.
Okay. Just wanted to be public about that. Thank you. Lynn, you're on the next one.
8605. It's just nothing more than one term change, right?
That's absolutely correct. This is to clarify the difference between a public records coordinator and a public records custodian. We choose the term custodian. I believe that's what's in statute. And so it's just clearly cleaning up the language.
Okay, any questions, trustees? Is this? All right, so no action taken tonight. These are just we'll take a look at these next month, right? Obviously. So we are going, before we do that, we have just some workshops coming up. We have one on the 13th, which is this Thursday, dealing with what? Oh, that's right, superintendent search information, okay. Then we have one on mental health initiatives and the ISBA regional meeting, 27th, that's good, that'll be in. Sometimes the legislators attend that, some of them do anyway.
If any of you are planning to attend, you could let me know. Ms. Brumley has already RSVP'd that she will be attending.
I'll be there.
It's the 27th at 6 p.m. at Venture High School. Dinner will be served.
It's a good meeting because oftentimes some of the legislators, not all of them, but some of them will show up. And two, I think is even really important is we look at the ISBA resolutions that have been presented by the various regions around, or districts or regions around the state that will be going to the convention in November. So it's our first chance to take a look at those, and then we can make some decisions about if we want to support them or not support them or whatever. So it's usually a pretty interesting meeting, I find anyway. Unfortunately, Karen's not going to be here this year, though. She says she's not going to handle it. Somebody else from down there. Yeah. So, but anyway, okay. Well, that being it, we're going to take a recess, and we'll be starting again here with an executive session.